extraordinary. She raised both of us to be very strong, independent women. You know, we were coming out of, I was raised during the 70s, right? Women's lib and all that stuff. And my mother was, here's a fun story. She forbid me to take a typing class in high school because she didn't want me to work for the guy, right? She didn't want me to be the receptionist. But I was allowed, and I couldn't be a cheerleader. I couldn't try out for cheerleading, but I could be in student government. So, you know, she was very, you know, there were things that she orchestrated early on, perhaps without my full understanding, to ensure that I was, you know, I was self-sufficient and that I was taking care of myself and that I would always be able to take care of myself. And so I think I was raised by that. I had that foundational support, which was critical, frankly. And because I had that confidence built in early, you know, the support of family, any kind of support that you have as a young person is so critical, right, to your confidence. And I had that. And so I was able to kind of push through. And I feel that, I don't know, there's a little fire in me that when I got a pushback or I was feeling really insulted, I kind of leaned into it.
Welcome back, everyone, and thanks so much for being here for this episode of She Lights the Way, where we celebrate the stories of inspiring women. I'm your host, Nicole Huesman. I've always felt incredibly lucky to live in the gorgeous Pacific Northwest. One of my favorite things is to spend an afternoon in the Oregon wine country, specifically the Willamette Valley. As some of you may know, the Willamette Valley is now famous for its Pinot Noir, but that wasn't always the case. My next guest has been a real force in putting the Oregon wine country on the map. Today, I am so excited to share my conversation with the delightful Maria Ponzi, a true pioneer. Maria grew up immersed in the world of winemaking as her family established Ponzi Vineyards, one of the first wineries in the Willamette Valley back in 1969. Over the decades, she, together with her sister Louisa, played a pivotal role in growing not only their family business, but Oregon's reputation as a world-class wine region. Today, Maria is the Director of Wine Education at Linfield University. Beyond her contributions to the wine world, Maria is an author, mentor, and passionate advocate for various causes in her community. Join us as we dive into Maria's story and her insights on leadership, family business, and embracing life's journey with intention. Maria, I cannot tell you how wonderful it is to have you on She Lights the Way. You have been really such a force in the Oregon wine culture and wine country. And it's an honor, truly an honor.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. I'm thrilled to be here with you. So thank you. I love what you're doing. So happy to be involved.
When I think back over my experience in our beautiful, beautiful Oregon wine country, one of the pinnacles of our beautiful country here has been Ponzi. And I realize that you're so well known here in Oregon and really around the world. But for those of us who don't know about you or about the Oregon wine country, can you introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about you and what makes you tick?
Lots of very open question for someone who loves to talk. Um, well, in short, I guess, is that yes, my family was one of the first to arrive in the Willamette Valley back in 1969, when we were told to go back down to California if we thought we could make wine up here. We were insane, and it would never work. And you crazy people, you have no idea. I was about 4 years old, so really. My entire life has been truly immersed in wine, especially obviously here in the Willamette Valley. And our story is, it starts with pretty humble roots. We moved up. We moved into a tiny little 1-bedroom shack, and started planting that vineyard almost immediately. Again, I was 4. My sister and brother were alongside, so ages 2 and 6. And yes, we planted the vineyard, and many people like, oh, yeah, no, you didn't. No, we actually did. We really did work with my folks in planting that first vineyard that is actually still, you can still go out and see it. It's off of Shoals Ferry Road, Winery Lane. It's still there. It's as old as I am. And, the rest is really such a long story. I did write a book about it because, I feel like I've had this incredible, real privilege of being along for this ride, but also, contributing quite a bit on the journey in terms of building the industry and the region. And, my sister and I eventually took over the winery and really grew it until we eventually sold it in 2021 to Bollinger Champagne out of France. And really, it was just an incredible ride of seeing not just our business grow, but really the entire region grow. And, it's been about wine, but it's also been about hospitality. It's been about tourism. There's so many other things that go with that growth. And I'm very proud of what we were able to accomplish here in the Valley. And that's a quick a quick intro of like where I'm coming from. So I'm very immersed in the Willamette Valley, very much a very strong ambassador of the Oregon wine industry in our community.
You really put the Willamette Valley on the map. And one of the reasons that I think the Oregon wine country is so special is that not only are we a wonderful Pinot Noir growing region, but we're also the community feel that you get when you're out in the Oregon wine country. It's a family. You just get that sense in going out there, and spending a day out there.
Well, I love that, Nicole, because it really goes back to the origins of it too, in terms of, the few of us that came in the early days, we really came without resource. Many of us came without real background education in wine, in business, in farming. And so what I think is so lovely about the story of Oregon wine is that the spirit of collaboration, of working together and sharing ideas, and sharing skills, and then of course sharing equipment and supplies to make us all lift up. And that is the spirit which created this industry. And it is a beautiful thing. And you don't hear a lot about that in terms of building industry by coming together. And we were able to do that here. And I think, the fact that that you still feel that you still feel that we're a community, it gives me so much pride because it's been really the foundation of our community. And we continue it, we're almost 60 years in now, and we still collaborate. We're still talking about how to, how to best serve our vineyards, how to sustain our vineyards and be healthy, maintain our soils and maintain the health of our soils and our land. And then of course, with all of the other things that we do together in terms of marketing and promotions, considering how do we create an event that everyone can be a part of. So it's just still part of the core values that we hold. And I love that I'm from that, and that I was able to contribute to some of that too.
Yes, just a sense of family. And
Yeah.
what was it like, you and your sister growing Ponzi,
Yeah.
growing, and putting the Willamette Valley on the map? How did you work together, and how did your relationship evolve over time?
Well, it just sort of was natural, to be honest with you. Growing up, my sister uh, is the youngest, very explorative, always, getting dirty, love to get muddy, love to play in, the puddles and find the worms, and, and going down to the creek and finding the crawdads. And just like she was a lover of biology right from the beginning, and a scientist almost right from the start, where I was very not. I was like the one who was, can we please, go inside? I want to write in my journal, or, I was always the communicator, always. And so when we kind of both returned eventually to the winery, that's the neat thing about this industry too, is that it's so complex and so dynamic that she was natural to roll into production and become, the head of the winemaking and viticulture, and for me to take on, the communication sides and the marketing and the sales side of the operation. And so that's kind of, we found our way very, very, it was natural, and because I didn't want to be a winemaker, it was like, are you kidding me? That's the last thing I want to do. It's like be in a dark, cold space and be wet and sticky and like haul around, hoses. It was just like, no. And she didn't want to be in front of people and talk and tell stories. And, as a journalism major, I love telling stories. That's what I love sharing, like what we're doing today, just sharing the stories of other people. And so, she didn't want my job. I didn't want her job. And so it worked out very well. And so we worked pretty well together. I mean, I had to kind of, restrain some of her creativity, and she had to, tell me to open up a little bit. So, it all worked out.
Yeah. So it was a great compliment.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it was. I mean, it's interesting having a family business because, your relationship shifts from, growing up as sisters. It's a different relationship than you morph into being business partners. And that is the thing that I think we don't talk a lot about in terms of family business, but how your relationship shifts. And, and a lot of folks are like, oh, this is just awesome, family business. But what we're not aware of is that it's going to change things for you. And so now I look at my sister as more as, my past business partner than my sister, and it's, it requires a whole other interview, but, but there's just some it's a pretty, complex relationship when you're working with a sibling, for sure. Or just with your family, it can be your folks or your aunt or your uncle, whatever.
Yeah. What were some of the biggest challenges, you think?
Oh gosh. I mean, so many challenges, right? I think, for Louisa and I both, we just had the most obvious one, which we were women. And we were, we were very early into the industry. When we came back, it was the early 90s. And there were not very many women in this industry. And those that were incredibly strong, powerful women, who, I just think back and I admire so many of these gals. So we had that to push through. We had to push through the fact that we were daughters of, this guy, our father, who was claimed as one of the world's best winemakers, and, often being told, well, your father must be so proud of you, or how's your dad? Even though you were kind of like, doing the work, it was always kind of, it was always him, even though it wasn't. He was the founder of the industry, he and my mother, not the industry, of the business, but the growth really happened under the leadership of me and my sister. And I think that was always just a thing that we had to deal with, was that Dick and Nancy were always going to be part of this conversation, and so that has been hard, I think. And it remains hard for women. I think of daughters who have taken the reins, and it's the cliche. You have to work twice as hard. You have to be twice as assertive and do all those things that are very uncomfortable. You have to ask for the things that you deserve. You have to ask for, I would like the cover story. Please don't give it to the guy who just showed up. I've been doing it for 10 years, and it's very uncomfortable. It puts you in a very uncomfortable position. But I think that I have always felt, and I know my sister does too, that these were things that were just inherent in us being in the position that we were in. And so we spent, I think, less time like fretting over it. I mean, of course we would be frustrated and so forth, but we also knew that we had bigger work to do. Like we had to push beyond it. If we were going to sit in this place where we were just frustrated and nobody's taking us seriously, we weren't going to get anything done, And Luis and I raised children. We had little babies while we were running this thing and nursing, while we were on the phone with wholesalers and distributors and like excusing ourselves to go pump. I mean, and kids that get sick. And we were doing it all and not getting that kind of recognition, that the guys were getting, who may have just honestly may have just showed up. And so those things are very, very difficult. But I think for me anyway, I kept feeling like we just got to keep pushing on. We just got to keep pushing on. For me, it was to build this brand. I was very proud of, what my parents had started in the industry. And as we said, the community had initiated, and I just wanted it to be better and better and better. And so that was sort of my, that was my plan. And that was my gold star. And so I kind of kept going for that and trying not to get sidetracked. But there were things that happened. I remember feeling when I was much younger that, you go on a sales trip and at the end of the day, you would have a dinner mainly with a bunch of guys, and then they would all go to the bar and have their whiskey or whatever it was. And I would be like, no, I'm going to, at this point, I feel like I should go to my hotel room, but also being very aware of the fact that all the deals were going to happen at the bar, right? All the final closing, all the closing was going to happen at that bar. But I felt like I needed to, kind of do a little self-protection at that point. And it's the things that we don't talk about that we had to do, and put us at a disadvantage in some cases. So, you just had to we had to find another way around. So those were things that we dealt with beyond. I mean, that was the gender issue. And then, there's just a million other challenges in terms of like, being from Oregon and selling Pinot Noir and things like that nobody knew about when I was out promoting the wines, so there was lots of all those challenges too.
Right. Because they knew California, they knew other wine regions.
Yeah, totally.
What do you think were your secret weapons, if you will, or how did you persevere through those different challenges? I know coming from the tech industry, right? We deal with the same kinds of things, male dominated industry. What do you think?
Well, I have to give a heck of a lot of credit to my mother. My mother is extraordinary. She raised both of us to be very strong, independent women. We were coming out of, I was raised during the 70s, right? Women's lib and all that stuff. And my mother was, here's a fun story. She forbid me to take a typing class in high school because she didn't want me to work for the guy, right? She didn't want me to be the receptionist. But I was allowed, and I couldn't be a cheerleader. I couldn't try out for cheerleading, but I could be in student government. So, she was very, there were things that she orchestrated early on, perhaps without my full understanding, to ensure that I was self-sufficient and that I was taking care of myself and that I would always be able to take care of myself. And so I think I was raised by that. I had that foundational support, which was critical, frankly. And because I had that confidence built in early, the support of family, any kind of support that you have as a young person is so critical, right, to your confidence. And I had that. And so I was able to kind of push through. And I feel that I don't know, there's a little fire in me that when when I got a pushback or I was feeling really insulted, I kind of leaned into it. Instead of backing down, I moved into it, and I would go ahead and push it a little bit. And I think I've thought about this. Why did I feel that I could do that? And I don't know why exactly, but it may have something to do with the fact that it was a family business. So I was working for me. I wasn't working for a big, huge company, and I wasn't trying to move up the ladder, right? So I didn't necessarily have to be polite to everybody. I could be what I needed to be. If I didn't, if, for example, if that buyer was being insulting to me, I would just, go to hell. And I would, and be like, I'd go to the next buyer. I had a little bit of freedom, and I had some flexibility that allowed me to practice more of that. I don't know what that is. It's not being aggressive, but it's just having a little more power to push back. And I think that not so many women don't have that. And I had that ability, and I think I practiced that. I mean, I did. It wasn't pretty. I mean, I certainly wasn't out to make friends. I was out to build the brand. And to support women So, when there's things that happen that felt like really not okay, I would call them on it,
Good for you.
but I had the privilege to do it. And I think that I always have to kind of come back to why was I able to do that. I'm also a white woman. So, there are other things that I had in my toolbox, if you will, that allowed me, to feel that I could do that.
Yeah. Let's circle back to your mom. I love that you've shared how intentional she was.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like she knew she was, setting you up for success, that she was showing things to you. She was guiding you very thoughtfully and very intentionally.
Absolutely.
And that comes through, obviously, in the 4-ounce pour.
Yeah. Yes.
Can you talk more about your inspiration for developing that keynote and what you want people to take away from that?
Thank you for bringing that up, Nicole. It's like it's my baby, and I'm so excited about the 4-ounce pour. And the 4-ounce pour really was a result of thinking back to my life in wine, and beyond the most obvious things, building a business, all those things. What else did I learn from that experience? And it really came back to the essence of wine for me is the appreciation of wine. It's the understanding that wine is not just a beverage, but it's actually something that should be savored and really thoughtfully enjoyed. And that is how I was raised, with great intention. As you mentioned, my mother was absolutely a model of that for me, from, setting the table every evening and making sure that we had, cloth napkins, and that there were flowers, and that there were candles that were lit. And this was sort of a ritual in our home. But she created that intention, and I was raised with that. And as I reflected back, after we sold the business, I started thinking, again, very fortunate to have had this kind of foundation. And I'd been taking it for granted, and realizing that not everybody has that, right? And this opportunity to share the gift of intentionality with others is just so. I feel that it's sometimes very simple. It's a simple message to slow down, be more meaningful with everything that you do. But at the same time, I feel that so many of us have forgotten to do those things, right? We are in a incredibly fast-paced lifestyle right now. Everybody's living at a high, capacity that is not healthy. For anything, it's not healthy for relationship. It's not healthy for your body, your emotion. It's not where we should be going. And so to remind people that it's okay to slow down, to remind people that indeed there is only one life that you have, and to savor moments and to slow down, and spend time with it, be your partner, your dog, your cat, your bunny, whatever, your children, or just yourself, and that is it needs to be accepted, and it needs to be a part of everyone's life. And wine taught me that. And it gets back to this small glass of wine, 4 ounces. You don't fill a glass to its top. You fill it and at a third of the glass so that you can swirl it, so you can smell the aromas, which is such pleasure, so you can sip it, so you can go back and enjoy it again. If you have a tall glass of anything, a big gulp, you're really not thinking about it. It's plentiful. So you're just continuing to consume and without any kind of thoughtfulness. And I think whatever it is, being a small glass, 4-ounce glass of wine, or even a small cookie, right? A small apple, whatever it is, when it's small, it's more precious and you take more time with it. And this is the framework that I think we can apply to our lives in slowing down and just being more thoughtful.
When we started this year, one of the things that I said to my husband was, let's be, and no joke, let's be more intentional about where we spend our time,
yes,
what we do, how we relate to each other, how we relate to other people. And I remember, just being out in the wine country for Father's Day, actually. And, it was, gosh, in our younger years, we'd race around to the different wineries out here and do these different wine tastings. And now what I really appreciate, and I was thinking about this as we were sitting out there, and spending time with our kids out there, was this intentionality of we're not trying to race to a million different places. We're choosing just a couple of places to go to and actually spending our time at these different places and looking out at the beautiful landscape. And just being present and being with each other.
Exactly.
And what a difference that is, right?
Yeah. And it's this, and again, this is not a new thing. People have been saying less is more forever. But I think right now we need to be reminded of this often, because we get caught up in the speed. We get caught up in the consumption. I'm sorry, I don't mean to throw Amazon under the bus, but, if I can have it in 2 hours, I'll take it. There's no waiting for anything. We interrupt each other. We don't have time to listen to each other. We don't have time to understand another point of view. It's just quick, move on. And the race that we are living in, it's not where we need to be. And again, I keep getting back to, we have one life, and who we're spending that time with during that life should be very important. And how we're spending, like you said, the experiences that you're having, how you're choosing to spend your time. Just be present with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. Can you talk a little bit about your book, Pinot Girl?
Sure.
I love this. And I love the book.
Well, thank you, Nicole. So sweet. I was a journalism major. So I love to write. So I was always journaling as a young girl. And I sort of always knew, not always, but probably by age of like, whatever it was, like 15, I was like, God, we must be doing something here, right? People started to come down the road to taste the wines and so I started journaling what was happening, my feelings that I was having about, harvest every year and how much work it was and just the whole deal. And I am going to write a book. I'm going to write a book. So it was always like a childhood dream thing. And then, whatever, you get married, you have kids, you're working a lot. But I finally just said, okay, you're going to do it. And I was able to finish it up, for the winery's 50th anniversary, which happened to have fall in May of 2020. And so the book came out in May of 2020 and just like, nobody knew about it. But the book is really, it wasn't meant to be about me, but it ended up going through the creative process. It was like it really is, in a way, it is a memoir about, what it was like to be a young girl in this very new region, doing this very different thing. And so it's my childhood lens of the early days of Oregon wine and establishing the industry again and the region and our little business. And it's about family. It's about, the love I have for my parents. And I call it the love story for my parents who, brought me into all of this. But it's really, it's a book that's not just about wine too. I think it's about having a project or having a dream, having a vision, and what it takes to fulfill it, and how sometimes it's not great, and the challenges that you have, but also some of the joys you have. And so, the first event we had, and it was all cash, and my grandfather took the bag of cash that my mother had put into a garbage bag, and he put it into the fire at the end of the day because, he's cleaning up. And we always had open fires. We were in the country. So, he just threw the bag of money into the fire, and all the work from those last 2 days just went up in flames. And you're like, wait, what? So there's little stories like that throughout, the silly things that happen like that. And then the triumphant things that happen when your father is hailed as, again, one of the world's best winemakers. And it's by Robert Parker, who was pretty much the king of wine at that time. And you're like, what? My dad? What? He's better than the French winemakers, so just little stories, big stories, but it kind of takes people on the ride of those days.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. Well, and we talked about family and community,
Mm-hmm.
and you've done so many different things for like you said, for the travel industry here, for the community in so many different ways. Anthony Circle comes to mind for me, the Maria Stewart Scholarship at Linfield. You've done so many different things in our community that we're so thankful for.
Oh, well, thank you. I think that, again, it kind of goes along with this idea that you can do good things. You can make change, and that kind of continues to fuel me. Kind of gets me going, because there's so much good that one single person can do. You just have to apply yourself and just go for it. And it's kind of crazy. Sometimes you feel like, oh, wow, I'm going to take that on too. Wow. Okay. How are you going to fit that in? But I think it must come back again from the DNA with my folks, in terms of just, taking on a vision and wanting to do something that will make things better. And I guess I've always wanted, it's always kind of been part of me. I always wanted to like save the whales, rescue the dog. But I think that that's just part of my being, is that you should always find a way to give back. I just feel like everybody can give back. I also helped a young man through his incarceration. And that was probably one of my most rewarding, still is one of my most rewarding moments. Because I realized that just this one single person, all that this young man needed was support, was a little bit of love and a little bit of like, you're okay. And these are the things that are great about you. And, he made it through, and he's just doing incredible. And And it didn't take a lot for me to do that. I mentored somebody, but it wasn't difficult for me to do that. I have the ability to do that. And I think every individual we all have gifts. What you're doing on this podcast, you are giving back in so many ways. Celebrating women and their stories helps other women, right? And brings support. And so we all have gifts. We just have to find the gift and then go with it. Just do it. It's what everyone says. Just take that first step. But Maria Stewart Scholarship, she was one of my dearest friends. And I lost her. And I also lost another best friend within 2 years. And that really had a huge impact on me too. This idea that life is short and you only have one life and you never know when it's going to happen. These were two very healthy women with children and incredible careers and the whole deal. And all of a sudden they're gone. So, just remembering how precious life is and to give it as much as you possibly can. Be present, be mindful, but also try to find a way to give. And we can all do something. And sometimes it's as small as seeing somebody who needs help to walk across the street or pick up some groceries or what. I mean, we all can be kind and can give. And it just, again, it helps you internally, right? I know that you know that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so true. We each have different gifts.
Mm-hmm.
It happens to be for me, we're both journalists, right? Or, steeped in journalism.
Mm-hmm.
And so that became when I was no longer being truly fulfilled by my, position, by my marketing role,
Mm-hmm.
it became, what gift can I give? How can I pass it on?
Yeah.
Right? How can I elevate underrepresented voices? But we each have a different gift to give the world. Completely agree with you. Mentorship has been such a theme throughout your journey.
Mm.
Can you talk about, and you've been such a trailblazer for other women making their way, right? You've talked about your mother. What has the role of mentorship played for you in your journey, either from a mentor perspective or a mentee perspective?
Well, I think and it could be, the journalism background too, that I really enjoy learning about other people and hearing their stories. I do love collaborating, and I have always believed in my heart and soul that we are so much better when we're doing something together. And at the winery, I would build a team that we were all supportive of each other, different skills, but, supportive. And I learned from them as much as they learned potential. I was like, you learned something from me? That's amazing. But, they taught me things, and these were, women maybe younger than me, but they brought skills that I had no idea how to do. And so we were constantly mentoring and menteeing each other. We were just, it was part of the culture. And I think back too, that perhaps some of this is because, when we started this industry, there were no wine professionals. You didn't hire somebody in wine marketing or, wine sales. They just didn't exist. And so I had to build a team and teach them how I felt we needed to do this thing. Because of course I wasn't trained in it. I didn't have the training. I was just doing it. And so again, I think it's about working together and sharing each other's strengths so it was always symbiotic in that way, and that we were both learning. And so that mentorship is very, again, mentoring is again, pretty inherent, I think, for me, in that I love to share. I have nothing to lose. I want to share. It gets back to the give back thing. And, if somebody else can be successful, let's do it. Especially if it's a woman or, underrepresented individual, I'm there 100%. Absolutely. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm on this earth. I've been fortunate, and so if I can give back in whatever capacity, that is what I'm going to be doing.
So you are now coming to us from your office at Linfield University.
Yeah.
And I guess it was a few months ago, was just absolutely thrilled to hear that about you going, and leading the wine program at Linfield.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about what your current role means to you and what you're hoping to impart to our next generation?
Yeah. Well, I kind of fell into this. It found me. I didn't find it. It found me. And now here I am. And I thought, I have to tell you, a higher ed, oh my goodness, I don't know if I'm up for that. I don't, trust me, I do not have a PhD. I'm more a doer. Nothing against PhDs, but I'm not a book smart person. I'm a doer person. So I didn't know if it was going to be a good fit, but the more I started thinking about it, I was thinking, this is the ultimate mentorship, right? It's like, this is the ultimate where you can actually create a program and put in the information that you have, experienced and that you've learned, and apply it and pass it along. And I was like, wait, this is totally perfect. And so, it's an incredible opportunity. I'm learning every single day. I'm still trying to figure out, how does this world work? Totally different culture. But I'm really enjoying it. And I'm really excited about the opportunity that we have here at Linfield. Linfield University is a small liberal arts college or university in really in the heart of wine country. We're in McMinnville. There's only about 1,700 kids here, students here, but we have such an incredible opportunity with the wine studies program to tap into all this talent that is literally within minutes. We're like within 5 miles of some of the most world-renowned wine producers, and we have access to them. And so to be able to have that ability to send someone who's excited about wine and wants to learn more and say, hey, you can go up the road and work with the French or the Italians or even the Oregonians, they really know their stuff. And I love having that access, and I love the ability to really build out a program that is going to be a little more focused. I would like to see more focus on wine business. I think that we, for so many decades now, have been incredibly focused on viticulture, enology, which is critical, right? Of course, but I would like to see some emphasis now in the area of what sustains that, right? So that means experience in wine business and finance and compliance and wine law and wine marketing and wine sales and hospitality and tourism. All those are the things that I really was immersed in. I would like to bring that into the curriculum because I think that's how we sustain and grow this industry into the next generation. So I'm really excited about it. I love, just being around these smart young people is so cool. They're like, they've got drive and they've got energy and they're interested and they're open-minded. You know what I mean? They're like, they want to learn, they want to listen. So it's really exciting.
What a wonderful opportunity they have to learn from you, who, is preeminent leader in our area, and really, worldwide.
Well, I just have a lot of friends. It's not really me. It's all my people out there that know everything that I can bring. I can bring them in here and they make me look good. Trust me, it's not me. I just am the conduit. I'm the conduit of all that amazing talent. But no, it's exciting. I'm really looking forward to the work.
How has your perspective on leadership changed? And from kind of, your early years to now, how do you think it has evolved over time as you look back over your experiences?
Well, I mean, obviously I've matured. I'm not quite as punchy as I used to be, like sassy. I'm still sassy, but not like I used to be with that kind of like youthful energy. I think my tack now is to listen more. I try to listen more and speak less. I am very aware that we are in a whole new world when it comes to just everything, especially, this whole post-COVID thing, but also just, as an older person. So I'm really trying to, as a leader, really listen more and learn more about what is happening so that I can remain effective and relevant. So I guess in a way, almost a little bit of taking a step back in some of the leadership roles. For example, somebody said, you should teach the class on marketing. And I'm like, there's no way I would teach a class on wine marketing today, because I was wine marketing, 30 years ago. When I knew my stuff. This is a whole new world. So I think leadership, like everything, needs to evolve, and you need to be very aware of those changes. I think my expertise now comes in things like the 4-ounce pour, the wisdom of looking at the whole picture of things and stepping back and allowing younger leaders to step up and support them. I don't need to be in front anymore. I just want to support the next leaders. That's really what I want to do. Because it's their time. It's not I've had my time. I'm really proud of what I've been able to accomplish, frankly. And so, stepping back and just being a supportive leader is really where I would like to be now.
Of all of the different experiences that you've had, what do you think has been either the most rewarding or makes you the proudest?
It's a big question because there's so many things I'm really proud of. That sounds really boastful, but it's true. I am. I mean, first of all, I'm a mother of 2 amazing young adults, who are totally my pride and joy. Like that's my biggest reward, is that I had 2 amazing kids, and I love them too, and I'm so proud of them. So that's a huge reward for me. I actually never thought I would even have kids. I was such a driven kind of like, you're going to be a career woman, independent, and then I met this guy, and he's like, so when do you want to start a family? I went, what? Whoa, what? So I didn't even really think about it. And then what do you know? I didn't even know what to do with babies. I was terrible. Thank God he was around. But and then I realized what a gift this is, wow. So my kids are a huge reward for me. I think having the ability to work with my family, we have been able as a unit to accomplish so much more that we couldn't have done what we did alone, any of us. So I feel very grateful, and that's a huge gift that I had to be able to work with my mother, my father, my brother, and eventually, my sister. And it's just an incredible gift that was. For me personally, I think my personal joys have been, accomplishing my book, The Pinot Girl. I didn't know if I could actually get that one done. And then the surprising latest, my keynote that I created, the 4-ounce pour. Really, I have great pride in both of those pieces that I created. And I really, yeah, I'm glad I was able to kind of etch out some independent work amongst the the big work,
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned your children.
Yes.
What advice would you give to them?
Oh.
Yeah, or to other women who are just coming into the fold.
I guess for me, the number one thing is to build independence, to really celebrate independence, and to support independence, and to ensure that your children are ready to be launched into this crazy world, and to be able to manage whatever's going to happen to them, because you cannot be by their side and nor should you. And so whatever tools you can give them, you should give them so that they can survive on their own. I truly believe that. I don't track my children. I never did. My daughter traveled through Europe when she was like, I don't know, 19, and I wasn't tracking her, and I felt like a terrible mother. My girlfriends were like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, there's nothing I can do. She's out there by herself. I'm not going to fly over and, make sure she gets on the train. So having that separation, I think, is very, very important. I traveled around the world. I backpacked around the world when I was 25. And that was the time when there were no cell phones. There was no connection with your parents, with your friends. There was no Instagram. Like, there's nothing. And I think that year I probably learned more about myself and surviving on my own and problem solving. So much growth happened because of that independent time and being in strange places and experiences and having to solve issues by myself created the confidence that I think I still carry with me today. So I would say as a new mother, as much as we love, trust me, I love my children. I cry still every time I leave them, and they're like 26 and 27. But to remember that that's the greatest gift you can give them, is to allow them to go be their own people. So that's my advice.
Oh, I love that. And even when we are over in Europe with them, yeah. I kid you not. So I have a 13-year-old son who I ended up losing in Amsterdam. I am not joking. Right? I mean, we were coming back from the north, over the river there, the north side, and I was on foot, he was on a bicycle, and he said, hey, I'll ride up to the next corner and I'll wait for you there.
Oh, gosh.
Well, I got to that next corner and he wasn't there. Mm-hmm. Mm. And we ended up, long story short, but we ended up making it back to our Airbnb, separately.
Yeah.
He ends up, being really resourceful and calling me. The people who had rented us our Airbnb were just next door, and he ended up, going over to them and calling me, from them, so that I knew that he had gotten back to our place. But I thought, even when we are there. Right.
That's right.
And right. Yeah. And, sort of like at the very simultaneously, I was absolutely panicked.
Right.
Right. And yet, now it's like, oh, proud mom moment, right? He actually knew what to do. He knew how to, at the young age of 13, in this, well, they speak English in Amsterdam, but still in this European country, in this European city, finding his way, finding his way back and knowing what to do, and, and all of that. I'm like, and hey, buddy, good for you.
And Nicole, what's cool is that you allowed him that adventure. You allowed him. I mean, maybe it wasn't, you didn't expect that to happen, but because of what happened, he has now learned so many things about himself. And if you were there along the way the whole time, he would have never been able to have that experience. And I think today, again, more than ever, with this security blanket, of the phone, at every moment they can solve their problems, the more distance we can give for them to figure things out and process, even with that darn phone, is, I think, so important to just growing and being a very capable, productive person. So, I mean, I've been in the panic, like, where's my daughter in this grocery store or whatever? Where's my son? We lost my son at the LAX like so many times, my little guy. He's on the payphone. He's on the payphone trying to call. I'm like, he doesn't even know our number. He doesn't have a quarter. This is way back when. I'm like, this little kid, he must have been 6 years old. He's trying to find us. But it's the thing is, this is what's important. This is teaching, and this is why we have to remember that and not hold every hand all the time. So it's hard though, because we love them so much, right? They're so amazing and all those things.
Yeah, it is hard. It is hard. Wow.
It's a good thing to do.
Yeah. So, Anna Maria, what does, if you, as you look back over your experiences, success is such a loaded word. But how would you define success, and how has that changed over time?
Well, I think again, when you're young, you're pretty self-centered and self-focused, as I definitely was. Very, goal oriented, like we got to make so many, we got to sell so much wine, or my personal goals, I'd be flying to Texas, like I got to sell 25 cases, very goal driven like that. For me now, success is a little bit different. For me now, success is like everything has kind of gotten bigger and broader. And so it's about leaving having an impact. And, I'm still working in wine, but I really believe that having impact in other areas is where I want to go. That's success. I mean, I did it with founding Anthony's Circle, which is aiming to increase the graduation rate for foster youth in our state, which is deplorable. But starting that nonprofit, again, working with the incarcerated youth, stretching beyond. And I also work a lot with protecting our land, our farmland. I'm like obsessed with protecting our farmland, but like reaching beyond just the main, core, which is wine, and seeing what else I can do to impact my community in other ways is success for me moving forward. So I'm hoping to be able to engage more with those other projects.
Wow. So as a leader in Oregon's wine industry, what changes have you seen, and what do you envision for its future?
Yeah, well, we're in a tough time right now. We've got a lot of challenges. We have the most obvious, which is climate change. So everything is shifting there. We have a pretty strong anti-alcohol campaign that is not just statewide or national, but it's global, with messaging that wine is bad for your health. So we have more competition from alternative beverages, non-alcoholic beverages, but also, just cider, hard ciders, et cetera. Lots of options for people when it comes to beverages. So we're up against, and costs are high since COVID. So we're looking at costs that are 30 to 50% since, 2019. So it's becoming difficult to be successful in this area of wine right now. My hope is that this will move forward and we'll get through this. On the good side of our industry, what I'm seeing is a lot of diversity, not just in varietals, but meaning, beyond Pinot, beyond Chardonnay, we're seeing folks that are very interested in other varieties that actually were tested a long time ago in my day, that are now coming back, that create a little bit more interest for lots of people. I see the need to bring greater access to wine to many different people, not just those that can afford a $50 bottle of wine, but options for folks to enjoy wine at a lower price point, but also a diversity of people. We have a big, broad, you talk about family. Our family has grown, and we have lots of different people in our family now that come from all different walks of life. And it's so exciting to see that come in. I was just talking to actually a wine studies student the other day, and she's Hispanic, and she said, I never thought I would like my spicy taco with Riesling, but it's great. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Here we go. We can have wine with tacos, or Korean chicken. It's like we can go all over the place now with wine. So that is really cool, and I'm excited about that, about the opening up of our community to all these different people and stories and cultures, and it's so cool. It used to be pretty locked down. We all looked about the same, and we were all doing the same. Have wine and cheese, wine and cheese, wine and cheese. European, and now we're seeing this whole other thing opening up. So that's exciting, and I just hope that we have more people to share the story of wine. in terms of the appreciation of wine, and to really think of it the way that I think of it, which is I think of it as food, and I think of it as nourishing to the soul and to the heart and to our bodies. Like, I can't imagine not having wine as part of my diet because it brings me such joy. And so these are stories that I hope that next generation, the newcomers, if you will, to this industry, start to share those stories too, that wine is not just strictly alcohol. Wine is not strictly a beverage, but wine and should be a part of your life, a part of your diet when it is enjoyed in moderation with thoughtfulness and appreciation, because that's how it's made. It's made with incredible intention. It's made with an amazing amount of thoughtfulness and care. And so that's how we should also appreciate it. And so I'm hoping that we can send that message out to the world.
It's an experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a cultural, it should be a cultural experience. We live in a place where we have beautiful food, we have beautiful wines, we have beautiful, as you said, landscapes. It's incredible. Should be a cultural experience for people. And so we just need to get more people to understand it and to enjoy it. Because I think it really can be a fulfilling part of your life and a real joyful part of your life, as I know you do, because you enjoy wine. So.
I do.
You understand.
Yes. Yeah. So as we close today,
yes,
I would love to ask you, Anna Maria, what does She Lights the Way mean to you?
Well, I just love it. I think that I've always believed that there is a story in everybody. And again, everybody has a story, and we can learn from every single person. It's so important to share stories. And I love so much that you are sharing the stories of those of us who may not be, mega celebrities, because we're all heroes in our own way. We all have our own gifts, as we mentioned. And I love that you're sharing this so that we, can continue to light the way for women, right now, but also the women who are coming up, our daughters, and recognizing that we all have something to give and to inspire others with. So I love what you're doing. I just think it's so important. And so thank you for allowing me to be a part of it.
Oh gosh, thank you. It has been a pure delight. Wow. I so loved my discussion with Anna Maria Ponzi. Her experiences, her insights, the wisdom that she shared. I'm struck by the powerful message at the heart of her journey, the importance of living with intention. From her family's bold decision to plant vineyards in Oregon, even when everyone said it couldn't be done. And imagine that for a minute. Living without Oregon's Pinot Noir. Not sure I want to do that. To her own path of leadership in the wine industry, Anna Maria's story is a testament to the power of purposeful living. Her 4-ounce pour philosophy reminds us to savor life's moments, to be truly present, to appreciate the richness of our experiences. It's a call to slow down in our fast-paced world and find meaning even in the little things, especially perhaps in the little things. It's a beautiful reminder how we can apply the mindfulness of wine tasting to our everyday lives. If you'd like to dive deeper into Anna Maria's story, connect with her, and immerse yourself in the history of our Oregon wine country, check out the links in the show notes. Thanks so much for joining us, and may Anna Maria's wisdom inspire you to pour a little more intention into your own journey. Until next time, here's to savoring every moment.